I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics Ninjor, or as the box says, Ninja Warrior. Yeah, this is just another instance where Mattel couldn't use the name Ninjor because there are copyrights on it that are held elsewhere. So you can actually thank Power Rangers for the fact that this box says Ninja Warrior. But he's still Ninjor to us, so let's check him out. As you can see, he comes in that standard Masters of the Universe Classics blister card packaging, fully showcasing the figure within. I also like the little yellow burst down there on the bottom that actually has the little description of the character from the vintage packaging. That's a neat little touch that's been added to these figures. And the back shows off a selection of other figures in the Classics line, as well as gives us a brand new bio for Ninjor. So Ninjor is another one of those classic figures from the vintage Masters of the Universe line who is finally getting an updated action figure. Now right away I do need to mention that one of the things that really made the vintage Ninjor figure stand out to me was the fact that he was wearing a cloth tunic and mask, and that mask could be pulled off of his head. Now I didn't really expect that on this new figure because we haven't had any cloth parts in the new Classics line, but I do feel like that was something that made the vintage figure special. However, I will point out that I do feel that the sculpted on tunic and the mask look pretty good on this guy, and it definitely fits with the aesthetic of the rest of the Masters of the Universe Classics lineup. He's got that familiar black and red color scheme straight off the vintage figure, and one of the things that I really like here is that Mattel did opt to keep those demon feet and clawed hands on this figure. That is something I really felt made the vintage figure stand out. Even though it looked a little weird having a ninja with some big clawed feet, he is sort of an interdimensional ninja, so it makes sense for him to have sort of a demonic look. Now the tunic that he's wearing is nicely detailed. It's got that classic kind of dragon symbol right there on the front that's wrapped around the dagger, and it's done in a really bright red and silver color scheme. The silver is a little sloppy though, I will say, particularly where the hilt kind of meets the blade of the sword there, and even on the silver eye, they're just not really painted in the lines. So it doesn't look too bad, but when you look at it up close, you can really see that it's not within the lines of the sculpt. I do like all of the extra details on the tunic he's wearing though. He's got some really nice kind of shoulder straps that come over these pads over there on the shoulders, and the straps on the front are even a different shade of black than the rest of the tunic. The straps have more of a gloss look to them, while the tunic itself is more of a flat black, so it does look really nice. The only part of it that I find a little odd is that the sash going around the lower portion of his tunic that's right above his red belt is actually painted a brown color instead of black. It doesn't look bad per se, I just think I would have liked it better if it was more of a gloss black to match the straps that are coming across his shoulders. Now I really love the head sculpt on this guy. Like I said, that vintage figure might have been a little special because he had that removable cloth mask, but the sculpted mask on this guy looks absolutely tremendous. And the face sculpt underneath, even though not much of his face is showing, is still very well done. And one of the cool little things that the Horseman did on this that I think is a really neat touch is that they gave him black eyes with red pupils to really add to that whole demonic look. It's a very cool touch that I'm very happy with. Alright, my friends, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Ninjor here. A lot of basic stuff going on with this guy, and of course we've seen a lot of these parts before, so there's really nothing too unfamiliar about him. We'll start with the articulation, where the head, of course, goes left and right, up and down very nicely. He's got this little collar that comes up over his armor. Doesn't hinder the movement whatsoever. You can still turn the head just fine. You got those same ball joints at the shoulders, again, not hindered by the armor. Forwards, backwards, up and down, swivels at the bicep, standard joint at that elbow, swivel at the wrist. You got that ab crunch there, so good articulation there. Swivel at the waist. Legs can go all the way outwards. They can go forwards. They can swivel at the thighs. You got your standard joint at the knee. You got the swivel at the boot cuts. And you've got really nice and tight ankle articulation down here. No pin showing. So he stands up really well. We don't have to worry about him falling over. It also helps that he's got those big demon feet there too. It really helps him keep standing pretty well. The armor itself removes just like any of your standard figures. You got the little clasps on the back of the figure there, so you can actually pop that off. You can remove this if you wanted to, and you'll also notice that it does have a little hole in the back of the armor. That is not in the figure, it's in the armor itself, and that is for his quiver accessory. And you can see that the way the pinhole is designed on there, there's only one way you can plug it in, and it's really nice and snug. So it's not loose at all. You can see it fits real tight on there. You don't have to worry about this being too loose and falling out or anything like that. It's a really, really good fit, which is very nice. Now he does, of course, include an interchangeable head as opposed to that cloth mask that came off on the vintage figure. So the head just pops off just like we've seen on any of the other figures in this line. Really tight, of course, but then we can pop on the new head in its place. I'll tell you what, the ponytail kind of gets in the way of popping this one on. I'd be careful. You don't want to like snap that ponytail. Not that I think it's like any more fragile than any of the other figures. It's just because of the awkward placing. You'll want to watch that when you're trying to pop that on there. But there we go. We can swap the head. Very easy. And now we've got the unmasked version of Ninjor. Now the last thing he comes with is this extra little accessory, and while it's not necessarily designed for Ninjor, I'll show you more about that in just a minute. I do still want to show you how it functions. This is just like an extra little piece that fits right around the waist, kind of little sash and everything there. It has a little clip on there that is very similar to what we see on all the armor pieces. So the little hole, the little nub right there, and then we just can put that right around the figure's waist. That clip is actually on the left side of the figure, and then we can pop that in there. It will take a little bit of work just to kind of get it all straightened out and get it snapped into place, but it fits really nicely just like that, and you have an alternate method of displaying this figure or another certain figure. So that little red belt sash accessory is pretty cool. There's a lot of really nice sculpted details going on here. It's a bright red and kind of a metallic gold color scheme, and I love some of the details like that dragon face with the large kind of rope sashes hanging down in the front, and looking at all the cool little things that are hanging off the back of the belt are all very nice looking on this little piece. And while this doesn't look bad on Ninjor, it certainly looks a lot better on the figure it was more sculpted for, which is Jitsu. It really helps to kind of complete his look and add a little bit more detail to the overall figure, giving him a bit of a 2000X flair. So let's go and take a closer look at that unmasked head for Ninjor here. So the head swapping thing does make sense. Like I said, this is kind of how we've seen it done with all of the Classics figures, so this is definitely what I expected. And it is a really nicely done sculpt. It's got this really great kind of teeth gritting face going on there, and he's got those same black eyes with the bright red pupils. He's got his hair kind of tied back in a ponytail. It sticks straight back off his head, and it's got a little bit of a wind-blown look to it, so it's kind of blowing off to the right side there. But it is a really nice alternative if you don't want to have him just wearing that straight-up ninja masked head. One of the other great things about Ninjor is that he includes a ton of accessories here. So you can see we've got a nice quiver with some arrows in it, as well as a little bow, which comes straight off of that vintage toy. Now the arrows are molded into the quiver, so they're non-removable on this. There's a little peg that fits nicely into the back of the armor that Ninjor is wearing, plugs in nice and firm, doesn't fall out, it's not loose fitting. And while you can't remove the arrows, at least they are painted a different color from the rest of the quiver, so it looks pretty nice hanging off of his back. You also have two little clips on this quiver here, so you can actually attach the bow on the back when he's not holding it in his hand. The bow is made of a nice sturdy plastic, but it is painted all one solid shade of silver, just like the vintage. He can hold it in his right hand, which has got more of a grip to it. The left hand's got much more of that open palm kind of going on there. And you can kind of get some arrow drawn poses out of it, but the bow is a little bit shorter than, say, Bo's was. And with the large kind of biceps and the build of these Classics figures, it is hard to get a good kind of drawing pose with the bow and arrow there. It does also have a non-removable arrow on this particular sculpt, which is worth mentioning. Now, aside from the bow and arrow, he does also include a katana. The blade on this is a little softer, so it might come out of the packaging a little bit warped, but you should be able to fix it just kind of by flexing it around a little bit. It's got a nice metallic silver blade, and even some pieces on the handle there have a nice metallic silver with a nice black wrap going on there. Again, holds best in his right hand because it's got more of a grip, and one of the things that I like is you can also store this on his back because there is an extra clip on the side of the quiver. And lastly, he comes with his nunchucks. Now, I'm going to do the same thing I did with that whole cloth thing, and I'm going to cite the vintage figure here. One of the things that made the vintage figure so cool was that he had nunchucks with a real metal chain. In fact, I liked those metal nunchucks so much that they even got graduated up to my Ninja Turtles line once I was done playing with the He-Man toys as a kid, and Michelangelo used them. So I feel that these chucks that come with the Classics figure are a bit of a downgrade, especially since we've seen metal chains in this line. This one here just has plastic chain going between the black chucks. It is flexible, so it's a softer plastic, so you can bend them around and you can even get some two-handed poses, but I really miss the metal chain here. I feel like this was a missed opportunity on this particular weapon. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's a look at the brand new Masters of the Universe Classics Ninjor standing alongside his vintage counterpart, so you can see the similarities and the differences between the two designs. So there you go, my friends, there's a look at the Masters of the Universe Classics Ninjor figure. This is another figure that I always really enjoyed from the vintage line. I know it's kind of an oddball one because he's a ninja in the Masters of the Universe lineup, and that seems a little strange, but it's a figure that I always liked, and I'm glad to see him finally get an update in the Classics line. I'm really happy that they sort of kept that demonic look with him by giving him the clawed feet and hands, and I really love all of the accessories he has. You can really arm this guy up. I do just wish that the accessories were a little bit more detailed, specifically having that chain on the nunchucks. Otherwise, he's pretty cool. He's got two interchangeable heads, which is always nice, and the fact that he even comes with an extra accessory piece to make your Jitsu figure even cooler is a really nice touch. I do like seeing these guys come with so many accessories. So Ninjor is part of the 2015 Club Eternia subscription and should be available in February on MattyCollector.com. Until next time.
Oh.